All right, guys, welcome back to the Rachel and Tommy Show. We are in Washington, D.C., so we are taking this podcast on the road.
We did it.
And if you could only watch the setup behind the scenes,
it's so ghetto.
I'm going to take a picture and post it in the comments.
It's like when Nene talked about not a white refrigerator. Girl, put your shoes on.
Because
That's what we got.
Professional moment is no longer professional.
It's so bad.
So we'll share that in the comments when this goes out.
I forgot our tripod, so we do what we can do.
We're makeshift on a book bag.
Yes.
Okay, so we're at NAR Legislative Week. NAR has like 2 conferences a year, one in Washington, D.C. mid-year. We're in May, and then we'll have one again in November.
And it's real important, during these visits, we do Capitol Hill visits where we go see our representatives. We go talk to them about issues that we're seeing with our consumers and with real estate that could help. It could help many things. It could help with insurance calls, infrastructure.
What else? Affordable housing, but I think that's across the board, and that's a hard one to help. But they see our need and where they could put the grant money that our state has into the different counties. So it was a great experience. We've done this now 3 times. So we're like the OGs of this.
We got it in the bag.
So we're both now past presidents of our local association in Baldwin County.
We know where all the good stores are. We don't even have to put them in Google anymore. We just go right to them.
So we have a lot of, play in between.
That's right. You got to play between the meetings.
So I think the biggest topic on hand coming into this was all these lawsuits that our, organization is going through. We finally have that date of August 17th.
For now.
It
could change. TBD.
And we could be leaving these meetings and literally you're getting on the plane and like everything's changed.
Right.
You never know.
Yep.
And it's almost like you feel like you're never getting accurate
real-time information. Yeah.
So I think right now the Realtor organization is frustrated. I think we're frustrated. I feel that we have 1.5 million members.
That we know because they don't publish the membership any longer.
This is true.
So we don't know.
The numbers could be going down drastically and we have no idea. People are probably jumping ship with all these lawsuits.
And that's expected. Some people do that out of fear.
Of course.
They don't know what's going on. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. You know, I do believe in organized real estate. I do believe in NAR, but I do believe there has to be some major changes.
Yes.
And they've made some changes, but I don't think it's enough, if I'm just being honest. The transparency level, I feel, is really difficult. You've got members who don't understand. They're out there every day working, so they're not always in the meetings that we're in,
100%.
that we sit in. There's only about 4,000 people who are at this meeting this year. Did you know that?
And there's
so it used to be 10, and then last year it was
4.
like 6, now it's 4.
And I've noticed that, like even the rooms for general session the first day, we started the conference on a Sunday, which was odd, because we've always started it like on a Monday, a normal work day. But the rooms, I mean, there's not a seat, like you got to get there at 8 a.m., like it's starting. I mean, it was not like that.
But there was plenty of spots to sit,
Plenty of spots to sit.
And I think that just really is the climate we're in. Number one, it's a down economy. It's hard.
It's hard to get away, traveling.
It's hard to get away. It's busy time for most realtors.
This
is our season, historically, for the nation, really.
Of course.
But you've got inflation, you've got high interest rates, you've got people who are on the fence, they're not buying and selling like they were, so people are kind of nervous, I feel,
There's a definite nervous energy, and I think that on every level, it's like what's about to happen, all these changes. I think the media never helps anything because I don't think what's really changing was portrayed correctly from the get-go.
Because their number one job is to hit clickbait. Like why we say controversial things sometimes, it's to get you involved and to click in. But that's their job, is to get the viewer to click their link, to go to their site, to read their article, to talk about that post they saw. So of course they're not going to spin things that look in a positive light.
True.
People want the juice, people want the tea, people want the gossip.
I think the one thing to take away from all this is buyer agents are not disappearing. They're not going to be dinosaurs. They're not going to be extinct. No. That's like the biggest misconception of all of this.
I know.
And I think it's also interesting. I was telling someone at lunch earlier today, I'm very observant of these rooms now. So, Sunday we had this meeting. They told us the official date of when we're going to have changes. Buyer agency compensation is going to be taken out of all MLSs. That was part of the lawsuit agreement. So literally Sunday, you get out of your meeting and then Inman's posting. All these major websites are posting. It's like, it's crazy to think who else is sitting in these rooms with us. And I also noticed this time around, like the teleprompter, because I always like to watch public speakers because I'm very like, you know, public speaking is very hard. And when you're like presidents of associations, you got to go through it. So now it's like an art that I'm like, wow, she's good. How did she do it? So the teleprompter is always like on the wall in the back of the room. It wasn't this time.
Yeah, I noticed
They didn't want people, so now it was in front of them, so nothing could have been recorded too. So
I didn't think about that.
I did.
That's interesting.
That was very smart of me. Very observant, Rachel.
Well, there's a lot of things that I feel like they're like really reeling in to try to, so they can control the narrative now and take back the narrative, I guess, is what I should say.
Well, we have to.
Yeah, because I'm already having those conversations right now with clients. I don't know if you have.
Absolutely.
But they're saying, oh, well, in July, I don't have to pay a buyer's agent.
No, that's not
And what I say is, if you want to sell your property, people don't work for free.
No.
So you're going to have to figure out a way to compensate someone.
Yes.
You know, a buyer's agent, or build that into the buyer's closing costs or whatever it is.
That's going to be what it's going to come down to.
Yes,
is
100%.
the buyer's going to be, you know, they've always been obligated to pay their agent. It's negotiable. It's there's no fixed number. I think that
commissions have always been negotiable.
Commissions are negotiable. Yeah. But, you know, we're going to have buyer agency agreements before properties are showed. But
which is good.
It's a good thing.
It's a protection. It sets up the boundaries. It sets up the professionalism.
Yes. But, you know, especially with inflation, higher interest rates, I mean, buyers are struggling with down payment.
Right.
And I mean, purchasing a home's like the American dream. I mean, that is your greatest asset.
Right.
And everyone deserves to have that. And they don't deserve to be affected by these changes. So what's going to happen is buyers ask for closing costs to get paid by sellers often nowadays. Yeah. So it's just going to roll into, they're also going to have to help to pay their buyer's agent.
And it's going to be rolled into their loan,
it's
unfortunately.
Going to be, yes.
And that's where they're going to be penalized, I think, through all of this. So people say, oh, well, we're good. We don't have to pay realtors. That's not really the picture, and that's what's been painted, but it's not accurate.
No, it's
so,
not.
Anyway,
so change is
good. Change is good.
Change is good. We love change.
Yes, you have to adapt. We always adapt, and realtors are the most savvy. That they're going to find a workaround.
Resilient.
Resilient.
I mean, we fluctuate with the market. I mean,
right.
COVID, you're shut down.
That's right.
The market crash, foreclosures. I mean, even in the South, the oil spill.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
we're going to always find a workaround to make it work, to get the best deal for our clients, to get the best deal for that buyer, that seller that we can, you know? One thing I did hear, though, today was, because this year is an election year, you know, come July, I think it's July 1 till December, they're not going to approve any new bills or anything because it's an election year.
That makes sense.
So we have not gotten the VA loan to the docket. So it's going to be another 6 months to 12 months.
So then that is going to be the only issue.
Yeah, so if you're working with VA buyers, you know, the way their loans are set up, they cannot pay certain fees that most loans allow their buyers to pay.
They have restrictions.
They have restrictions, so that they can't pay for the appraisal. They can't pay for certain repairs. If there's some issues at your home, you have to fix those as the seller per the contract, really. And they can't pay any closing incentives like a
agent
commission
compensation,
or, you know, anything like that. So that's going to be the only problem I see with people who are really, and you think about it, Alabama has a lot of military markets. You've got Huntsville, Montgomery, Birmingham, Mobile, Pensacola borders us, so we have some of that.
Yep, Pensacola.
So, you know, Troy, Evergreen, you know, all those areas have little pockets of people in the service. Yeah. And so it is a pretty big market. So that's going to be the challenge, I think, you know, going forward for these agents working with them. You know?
I agree. So we'll see how all this plays out. It's all going to be new territory for us too. So change is good.
Yeah.
During the busiest time of the year, we love a good change.
That's right.
So we're curious to see where all this pans out. So I know you just went to, and we haven't talked about this yet.
We haven't.
So Tommy.
And we got to be careful what we say.
I know. We're going to be so careful. So Tommy is part of the...
I'm part of the NAR. I'm an NAR director, and then I also sit as a state director. So it's really interesting. Our state, every time we have a national meeting, whether it's mid-year or an annual conference, the board of directors will meet, and before the board of directors meet, which is usually the last day of that trip, we will meet as a state with our state directors, and then we have a state caucus, and then we have our district, which is District 5, which is Florida, Georgia. Is it Georgia? Florida, Alabama.
Puerto Rico is in ours.
Puerto Rico. There's 5 of them. We're the largest district. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, we're the largest district out of NAR. But
I didn't know
then we'll have
that.
a Region 5 caucus.
Okay.
So,
which I think is at 4:30.
yes, which there will be nothing to talk about. So the governance of the board of directors was changed about 3 years ago.
Okay, so let's just start from the beginning. You get into this meeting today.
Yes.
You have your itinerary of what you're talking about beforehand.
Yes, we have.
And how many people you think are in the room with you?
Probably 20.
Okay, so there's 20 people in the room today. You go into the meeting. You have the this is the.
We have this is what we're talking about,
okay.
And then most times people from every committee will kind of report.
Okay, so they report within our territory.
If they know of any motions coming to the floor.
Okay, so they just educate you of what's going on. So you sit down.
We sit down. We're going over what we know is going to be on the agenda.
Okay.
And all those items have been removed. All of them.
Shut the F up.
Yes. So
you get
can
iPads?
imagine everyone. No, we have just a piece of paper.
Okay.
And then what we do have is we do have someone that sits on the executive committee, which is nice in our state. So he's kind of our liaison, and he's really able to tell us what's going on, really. And so what happened was about 3 years ago, there was some change in the structure of the board of directors, where a lot of the decision-making power in day-to-day business was gifted, I guess it was what you would say, to the executive committee with NAR and also the leadership committee. So when we have committee motions, they will go to the executive committee and they will vote them up or down. The only thing the board of directors is going to be able, what's in their power to vote on is 3 items, and I can't remember them all, but one is elections. So we can, for nominating people to be like first vice president and
the
secretary.
board still has that power.
The budget.
Okay.
And I don't remember the third item. I can't.
So you thought you were going in there today to start voting on motion.
Yes, like a normal board of directors
But that's kind of how it is at the local, right? The executive.
It is, but this is a little different because now with this new settlement, we have a $450 million?
Something like that.
17 million, I can't remember.
I think it's 413 or $417 million.
$400 million settlement that's taking place, but the board of directors has not approved that. So it was approved by the leadership.
But wasn't that a financial?
We thought it was a fiduciary responsibility.
Was that on your agenda today?
No.
So who did approve that?
The leadership committee, which is about, I think they said 12 people. So what I see, what I'm frustrated about, number one, is you spend thousands of dollars to come to these meetings, and to feel like you're making a difference and that you're representing your district and your membership.
Not only that, you're taking time away from your business, you're taking time away from your family. I mean, there's a lot more to it coming to these meetings.
Right, and so for me, I just feel like it really feels like the membership is losing their voice and their representation. You know, you have approximately 1.5 million members, and out of those 1.5 million members, you've got a very small.
You have 12 people now.
If it's 12, but you've got that little group of people plus the executive committee that are making the decisions. So really, I'm kind of like, well, what's the point of having a board of directors? You know what I mean? You really don't have any, and if you want to bring a motion from the floor, they were, and I could be misquoting this, so don't take all this to heart, but what I was understanding today is that if you bring a motion from the floor, you've got to have, there's like 800 and something board of directors, you've got to have at least 170 that will sign a petition to get it to the floor, and it has to be signed. I don't know.
All right, so then you go to the meeting today, you sit down, you look at the agenda, nothing that you thought was going to be on, it's all gone.
Right.
So then they say to you, we've screwed up.
They said, well, we realized at the executive committee that
today.
I don't know.
I just need to understand.
I feel like they've known about it, and they could have told us about it.
So they could have given you a heads up.
Mm-hmm.
So
because I'm like, again, you have thousands of dollars being spent to come to the strip. Like on the state level, the whole executive team comes. on our level, we have all of our officers,
I know, this is true.
and me, I'm the representative. We come. So you think about it. I mean, it's a lot of money. They had to know about it because they said, oh, we realized that we were not operating in this structure that we approved 3 years ago. It takes place this year. This is the year it's supposed to take place.
How ironic. You always like, what is it behind the scenes?
I know.
And I think that always goes to like transparency. Like we'll never get the whole story because we're not on that inner.
And the only thing I can keep going back to is you have to be a part of something if you want to see change. And though I'm just one person in the state, I do feel like showing up for an organization that I do love still.
And very active in it.
You're never going to ever have any change if you're not active in it.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? So I may be one voice out of 1.5 million, but I'm a loud voice. And there's plenty of people that I could talk to that probably feel the same way I do. And I know there are.
There's definite frustration here, too.
You know, there's frustration, all the way around.
But I also think it's important being an owner-broker, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is to really know what's going on as a whole.
And I would say
now have to educate our.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've already educated them. Oh, this is taking place in July. Well, now it's not. So
well,
we
and
have to
that's
let them
the thing.
know.
You know how many probably brokers or agents out there that have no clue about August?
I know.
And now we found out firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know the steps we need to do to get ready for August 17th.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to be in these rooms too.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go back to your meeting. I'm trying to paint the picture. So you sit down, your whole thing's not there, and then someone just stands up and speaks and is like, we no longer need you right now.
No. So it's all Alabama realtors in this room.
Okay.
Okay. So it's all the Alabama directors. And then one of our directors is on the EC, Executive Committee.
Okay.
So they had their meeting prior to our meeting.
So they just found this out too?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
So he comes in and he sits down, and our chair of this committee meeting says, we're going to go over all these agenda items, what we can look forward to for the board meeting, because we always do that. We want to make sure we understand what the motions are coming from the committees, that we know how we should vote.
Yes.
You want to make sure you go in united.
Of course.
And understanding, and that's our job. And so he said, well, some things have changed, and I'll talk to you about it after you do your report. So as he's going through his
so
report,
they did the report of all the motions.
and he's saying, we're going to do this motion. He goes, actually, that's been striked. It's not going to be on there. He goes, okay, well, we're going to talk about this committee thing. He said, actually, that's not going to be on there either. He said, okay, well, we're going to talk about this and this and this is coming. Actually, that's not on there either. And everybody's like, what? And then he goes, well, that one's been changed. That one you can vote on. And I don't remember what the committee was. And so then he did his whole spiel
about the changes 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then
I remember I was in that meeting in San Diego, I think it was, when the board did that. And I was I think I was a sitting member on the board of directors and on the delegate body, which the delegate body can vote things down that the board chooses.
Okay.
So really, I don't think there's a need for the delegate body anymore either. So it's just,
a lot of
things
changes.
evolve and things change. I just do worry about the transparency of the organization.
Of course.
So anyway.
And like what's to come down the pipelines. Like what don't we know that they know? And obviously we still have all this with the Department of Justice, getting the case getting reopened, and it's just part of it.
Yeah, and I honestly, and it's ever evolving, and it's a lot. I don't know if you sat down and read the lawsuits. It is a lot.
It's a lot, and all the copycat lawsuits and the different. It's a lot going on in our industry, and it's a shame because at the end of the day, in the big picture of it, everyone deserves representation.
Oh, absolutely. And everyone deserves home ownership.
Everyone deserves to own a home. And we're just the facilitator in that. And I know, listen, it is not easy process.
No. But I will say some of it, and we've talked about this before, some of it is our fault as
100%.
Professionals, because you get caught up in the social media posts that you want to try to promote your brand so that you can have brand awareness and people can see that you're doing something. And
I know.
And you just paint like, just sold in 5 days.
And
just
that's
listed,
the problem.
sold in 1 day.
Yes.
And they think, well, I don't need a realtor. That's easy. But if you really understood the value proposition and the value of a realtor, you would never want to do it alone.
No, 100%. And that's why it's so important for like us and other realtors to put out like educational, like what is the appraisal process? Like what an average, Joe, would you know that? What
Right.
what is an appraisal? What are closing costs?
Right.
What lenders are good to work with?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What inspectors? Like all this stuff we need to be educating more on that than we just sold a house. I really try now with my sold, I don't do all of them, but I try to paint a picture
yeah.
of like for instance, the other day I sold this property. My client's wife just passed away. So I'm like, it's not just I sold a house. Like what I did was facilitate this man's chapter
Right.
and his memories in this home with his wife. Like the chapter closed.
Right.
I facilitated that, and I try to take as much heartache out of it. I try to make it as smooth, clean.
It's emotionally charged. It's hard.
Everyone that we deal with, all our clients are going through so many different things in their lives. Like one's having a baby, has morning sickness. One just lost the wife. One is brand new, a VA buyer. Like there's so many different aspects and people involved in this, and there's so much more than I just sold a house now.
Right. And that's the thing too. And like, just to touch on that, we are the counselors. We are the shoulder they cry on
all day long.
when we get frustrated that it fell out of contract or whatever. We are the ones that take a lashing when they're upset.
Absolutely.
We're the ones that get there and scrub the floors or pick up diapers before showing because
Paint
they
the
didn't have
front
time.
porch.
Yeah. You kind of do all the things. I said, well, that's what we're paying you for, but it really goes beyond that. I mean, it really is like a care service, it's not just sold, flashy,
it's
look
so
at
much
us.
more. And you know what? To some agents, it might just be that.
That's true.
Because at 1.5 million potentially,
Yeah.
we're all different walks of life, and we're all different in
That's
that.
true. And one thing I'm proud of, it took me kind of a couple years as a realtor to really understand because it's a large investment, but is RPAC, our political campaign.
Yes.
And what we do, we raise millions of dollars each year to go towards our candidates and our political candidates.
Because this is very political. I don't think people realize until I was part of the association, I was a part of leadership for Alabama. This is a very political driven industry.
Right.
Very.
Yes. And so what RPAC does is they're fighting not just for us as realtors and professionals, but they're fighting for consumers, property rights.
Yes.
To make sure that your local municipality can't just strip away your right to short-term rent your property through VRBO or Airbnb, that they can't exercise, that you can't have multiple generations living in one household, that they won't, like during COVID, the reason there were so much essential workers is because we could have just done it for the realtors.
And so many states weren't able to work.
They were not essential, yes.
Our state, they got it approved. Well,
That's right.
We were essential and we could work, but there were so many states where realtors couldn't work at all.
But there were so many people that were able to work because of RPAC.
And it
wasn't just us, it was all independent contractors. And they were able to continue so that they didn't, fall on financial hardship. You know what I mean?
I know, that was a hard one.
RPAC is a really important thing in our industry. Number one, I feel like it's a protection of our industry, but it's more than just our industry.
I agree.
It goes to insurance issues. It goes to mortgage issues and lending issues. It could go to cities wanting to impose higher taxes, and they're fighting for that so that you're not overpaying and getting damaged or hurt as the consumer.
But I think a lot of realtors, especially that donate, are going to have a hard time now separating the RPAC from the lawsuits.
I've heard a lot of people say, I'm really considering not donating.
It was hard for me this year.
I know.
Because you go back and you just think, this industry with millions and millions of dollars, where did we go wrong?
I know.
And where could we have prevented all this?
Well, and it's kind of like a house of cards. You know what I mean? And I don't want to say it's like falling down, but it's like you chip away one layer and it exposes another.
But it also stings too, is that, we're going to have a few bad apples. I mean, 1.5 million members you're going to, but it's just a shame that,
And buyers, and I'll say it again till I'm blue in the face, buyers need representation.
100%.
Sellers need representation.
Because going directly to that listing agent, they have that relationship with the seller.
That's right.
They have that relationship already with the seller. Mm-hmm. You need to have your own representation. If you want to get the most fair deal possible and the best deal possible, you need your own representation. You need someone advocating and fighting for you. Yes. And I firmly believe that. So buyer agents aren't going away. We just have to restructure the way our commission is discussed.
That's right.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
And it's okay. The world's going to go on.
That's right.
The home market will not be disrupted. The home market, the housing market.
The whole market.